Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tess. I'm a licensed esthetician and certified acne specialist. So today I wanted to do a little acne Q&A, answering some of your questions and just getting ready for the workday. I have a client in 20 minutes, so I gotta go hustle. But I hope you guys like this video. Feel free to leave me any questions you would like answered in future videos below, and without further ado, let's get into it. I am going to sort of prime my skin by using sunscreen, of course. This is the Colorescience Glow Unforgettable Total Protection Face Shield. Kind of a mouthful. I love this stuff. I feel like it's so underrated. It is kind of a dupe for, not even a dupe, it's a better version of the Supergoop Glow Screen, which if you're using that, good for you for wearing sunscreen, but it does break a lot of people out. So I much prefer Colorescience. This is an all mineral sunscreen, SPF 50, great for pigmentation, melasma, and sensitive skin, but it just has the prettiest slight little shimmer to it, so I really like it for kind of a primer. But it's SPF 50 PA+++, aka just really good protection. So I am a big Colorescience girl. Let's get into some of the questions. The first one is all BPO benzoyl peroxide formulated the same? Great question. No, it's not. There is a huge difference in benzoyl peroxide. Most people would assume all BPO is created equal, but just like any other product, formulation really does matter. So I notice a lot of clients who come to me who have been seeing dermatologists and using a prescription strength BPO or an over-the-counter BPO, they tend to be pretty just intense and aggressive. I think it's partially the formulation and whether or not it is balanced with other calming and soothing ingredients. That's just always important when you're using actives, and for prescription actives, generally it's just the active. You're not getting some sophisticated formula that has peptides and green tea and all the things like you might find in professional versions of benzoyl peroxide, like a Glymed or Jan Marini benzoyl peroxide. And the other thing is the particle size and how the BPO is micronized. I've seen a big difference in different versions. For example, Jan Marini's is a very small particle, and I find not only does this make the BPO less drying and aggressive, clients also say it doesn't bleach their clothes like they've had that experience with other prescription forms of BPO. Can't forget the neck. This is like a New Year's resolution for me. I'm trying to treat the neck a little bit better because I'm starting to see those tech neck signs. Don't forget your neck. The next question is, how long after treating a client do you know it's time to refer out to a dermatologist? Also a very good question. I feel like my audience is just, they know what's up. So always love your guys' questions. By the way, this is a new concealer. Have not heard anybody talk about this. I feel it's so underrated. It's the Jane Iredale Pure Match Liquid Concealer in the shade 4N. I think I have a code with them, so I will link that for any Jane Iredale products. One of my favorite makeup brands. I've been using Jane Iredale since I think just out of SD school. I've always been a big mineral makeup gal, but this formula is just so creamy and hydrating. I feel like that's hard to come by. A lot of concealers out there will clog your skin, but Jane Iredale is a really good option. When do I know it's time to refer out to a dermatologist? Okay, I assume this question kind of refers to acne clients. It is rare that I will need to refer a client out to a derm for acne, but it does happen. And I've learned over the years, like it's not my fault, and I'm not hard on myself the way I used to feel if a client wasn't seeing results. In the case of acne sufferers who need medical help, it tends to be two things. I find, actually three things. It tends to be either A, they can't afford the routine or professional product, which is understandable. Two, they're not able to make lifestyle adjustments. And I've had some cases of clients who it's not feasible for them for whatever reason, whether, it's habits they haven't been able to adjust, or their job is so intensive that they just don't have the flexibility really to make certain lifestyle changes, or it's just really hard for them and they're not able to. Or there is an underlying condition such as PCOS where that really needs to be addressed first. And actually I'd say in that case, I usually don't see a major benefit of a derm. It's more so they need to work with a hormone specialist to help support their blood sugar levels. And sometimes I have had some clients who needed to go on artificial hormones to get things more normalized. But if we're just talking about, an acne client who's not seeing results, I think you really have to take a close look at their products. Are they using them, and are they using them as instructed? And what is going on with the lifestyle? I'm really glad I was able to get my health coaching certification because it just enables me to have a broader scope of practice and get more involved in the client's lifestyle. We can do food logs. I really ask a lot of questions about clients' overall health and lifestyle, and I think that's a certificate that's really doable for estheticians to add to, their scope. I think it took me 10 months to get my health coaching certificate. So worthwhile, and just I think really it's worth it to have a broader scope of practice when you're treating acne because it is just so complex. It's hard to do that alone with just topicals. I think the main advice I would give to an esthetician who's wondering when do I refer out to a derm is, maybe it's been a year plus and they haven't seen results, or they're just openly, admitting they're not able to make certain changes or afford certain products. At that point, I do think it's in the client's best interest to suggest medication. And it's not because I want them to go on medication. I think you just have to have the self-awareness as an esthetician. You can't want to treat and clear your client's skin more than they do. I want everyone who is in my program to succeed so badly. I find myself, I can get really personally invested in clients, really all of them, because I care so much. And I'm the type of person where if I have a goal, I want to know all the information, and I am very disciplined. I will make certain adjustments if that goal is important to me, but not everyone is like that. Not everyone has the discipline, or maybe it just doesn't bother them to the extent they are ready and able and willing to make the change. So I think we have to give ourselves some grace as estheticians and providers to know it's really not all within your control. We can provide our clients with the tools, and then they really have to meet us halfway and execute. And I think there is a certain point where if you're feeling like we're not getting anywhere, we're not making any progress here, ethically, I think at that point, it is worth having a conversation about medication options, because for some people that is just, it's the only way that's going to work for them. And although it's not my preference, I prefer to do things holistically. If it's not happening and somebody's really damaging their skin, or that's damaging their mental health, that's where I think medication can have a place. Next, I'm going to contour with the Merit bronzer. This is the shade Quince. Really like Merit for their makeup. And the next question is fungal versus bacterial acne. Okay, this is a really good question. They are totally different. Fungal acne is actually not acne, and it is more yeast-based. I have been seeing more fungal acne, and I do have a theory. It has to do with antibiotics being overprescribed for acne sufferers and just for health issues in general. When you are on antibiotics for a long period of time, fungal acne can be a side effect of that. And I think one of the biggest clues to look for is the tendency for fungal acne to itch. Normal acne should not itch unless you are using, actives like retinoids, acids, benzoyl peroxide. If you're overusing them and the barrier is compromised, that's where it can sometimes be tricky to distinguish fungal acne from normal acne. But fungal acne does tend to be accompanied by mild itching, and it almost looks like more like rashy breakout. It is difficult though to tell the difference. Sometimes it's really hard and you can have it cultured, but a lot of derms will say, since we all have yeast on our skin, the tests aren't always very reliable. So that is actually a great instance in which I would refer out to a dermatologist, unless you're really skilled with identifying fungal acne and you've gone through a program like Face Reality is actually really helpful for fungal acne sufferers. But there should also not be a real head to it, like a blackhead or a whitehead. So when you are extracting normal acne versus fungal acne tends to kind of leak a clear fluid, whereas normal acne, there's always a head or a nucleus to that type of breakout. I've never tried this foundation. It's the Luminous Silk Foundation. I am such a mineral makeup girl. I don't think I've bought a normal foundation in probably 5 years, but I just hear so many rave reviews about this, and it is supposedly acne safe. I don't think Armani is doing acne testing, but people do say by the ingredient deck it should be acne safe. So I wanted to try it just for on-camera things, or I don't know, taking pictures, going out. So I'm going to give it a go. And the next question is, how can we help those battling acne who don't want to change their lifestyle? This seems to be a theme. Actually, I hope this is the right color because I bought it online on Nordstrom and kind of looks like me. Let's see. Ooh, that might be a good little shade matcher. This looks nice. How to help those battling acne who don't want to change their lifestyle. Okay. This is one of the, honestly, biggest struggles of treating acne, guys. Just like I kind of said before, we really cannot, clear people who aren't as invested as the esthetician. It really is a 50-50 partnership, and it takes two. So for the most part, when a client isn't where they want to be, either there is some internal component like birth control or an underlying condition like PCOS that is really making it an uphill battle, or the client just really isn't able to make those changes for whatever reason. It's not easy. It's it's difficult to change your habits and to change your lifestyle, and I really empathize with acne sufferers because it's a lot. It's a whole lifestyle adjustment, and I find it's more rare to find a client who's willing and able to do everything I ask. Like, actually doesn't happen that often unless there's, you know, extreme motivation. Sometimes clients getting ready for their wedding, etc., are more motivated for the short term. What do we think of this foundation? Yeah, so I think my answer is like, you really can't. I can try to motivate people, I can give a good pep talk, but it's like, you know, trying to convince somebody, a trainer trying to convince their client to work out. You really can't. Like, nobody can force you to get up and get out of bed and set your alarm. You can be there to guide them through the workout if they show up, but you can't convince somebody to make those lifestyle changes, and it really has to come, I think, from within. It has to come from a place where somebody's really willing and ready to make a change. And I don't think as an esthetician you should put that kind of pressure on yourself to convince somebody to make lifestyle changes. It's really up to them. I think we can take on too much as the esthetician because we want our clients to succeed, and we have so much knowledge. We know we're capable of providing the results, so we can want it so bad, but it really doesn't change where the client is at, unfortunately. So I would say take the pressure off of yourself, and you might need to have a very real conversation with the client. And it doesn't have to come off, you know, blaming or mean. I think, like, you always want to keep the vibes positive and encouraging, but you can even say something to the effect of, like, you know, I don't feel right taking your money when we're not seeing progress, and until we're able to make XYZ changes, I think, you know, it's not really worth your investment, or there might be a better approach out there for you. I'm going to use my Makeup by Mario palette, Ethereal Eyes palette it's called. I love this thing. It's gorgeous. Look at all these colors. I love this little pinky shade. I'm going to mix these two. I say this a lot in my videos, but I'm only using makeup like this from Sephora, like on my eyes, for the most part, except for that foundation I wanted to try. That's not my normal though, and I'm still kind of nervous I'm gonna break out, but we'll see. Yeah, you know what, like, it's okay to let clients go when you guys are not seeing the results, as long as you're doing what you need to be doing as the professional. I think it's okay to make room for somebody who is willing and ready to make those changes. Yeah, I just don't think you can force anyone to do anything, and like, what kind of client wants to be forced? You know, that's not enjoyable for anyone. So it's not easy. I think we can do our best to motivate and inspire, but it's like that quote, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So yeah, you can let yourself off the hook if you feel like you've provided all the tools, but the client isn't necessarily implementing them. The next question was how to combat hormonal acne. And if you haven't watched my video on hormonal acne yet, it is a deep dive into like what's going on with hormonal acne. So I recommend watching that. But if you want the Cliff Notes version, I've talked about this a lot. I love icing for hormonal breakouts. I love benzoyl peroxide and retinoids. I prefer to start with benzoyl peroxide. I love to support the skin with an anti-acne with anti-inflammatory ingredients and an anti-inflammatory diet, high protein diet, lots of whole foods, lower sugar, which includes, more simple carbohydrates. Trying to make sure you're eating protein at each meal and the number of grams of protein that's equivalent to your body weight is kind of a good rule of thumb. I find insulin resistance is often a factor with hormonal acne. And the other thing is prioritizing rest, downtime, decompressing, being aware of your stress triggers, trying to eliminate that which does not serve you, and definitely trying not to pick hormonal breakouts because those are deep, deep, deep within the follicle. So icing really is the best bet. And there can be certain dietary triggers like eggs, high sugar or high carb diet, dairy. Those things, I do find hormonal acne sufferers can be sensitive to them. So it could be worth eliminating for a period of months and seeing if you fare better. If you've tried, all those options and you've worked with a professional and you haven't seen results, I think at that point, hormone testing can be helpful. Some people say it's not helpful. A lot of doctors say it's kind of a fluke because hormones tend to fluctuate. But I think for some people, especially if there are symptoms of PCOS, it can be worth having a hormone panel done just to see if there's anything glaring. And the other thing is considering the birth control you are on. The only time I ever experienced true, more jawline cyst-like hormonal acne was when I was getting off of a birth control after a number of years, and I'm just not really somebody to break out in this area. For me, it's more closed comedones, cheeks, forehead, that kind of thing. So when I experienced that getting off of my birth control, I knew there was a connection. I find for a lot of clients who, if at a certain point in their program, like 6-7 months in, we're not seeing the progress I usually see, oftentimes there is some underlying factor of birth control. I don't think we're really meant to be on birth control, to be honest, but you can tell when the body is like rejecting something or responding to hormonal birth control. And for some people, they don't pinpoint it because they were fine on the birth control for a number of years. But I just think there can be kind of a burden point or a tipping point where a birth control that might have worked for you in the past, maybe it doesn't with your current hormone profile or lifestyle. So that's always something to consider. It does tend to be birth controls that are lower in estrogen that tend to be more acne triggering. But for acne sufferers, generally the combination birth controls are a bit better. I do see more issues with the hormonal IUDs, the implant, or again, more progesterone dominant birth control. So the last question I got was, are there ways to treat hormonal acne internally, whether with supplements or prescriptions? So spironolactone has become quite the popular hormonal acne treatment. I actually do think there can be a place for it if somebody has kind of stopped responding to topicals or it's just not allowing them to reach total clearing. And I especially think there can be a place for this type of prescription with acne because you're at a higher risk of scarring when it is those deeper cysts. What spironolactone does is it kind of quiets that androgen receptor, so you're not as susceptible to the fluctuations of the male hormones. So a lot of people find spironolactone is pretty life-changing. I think the dosing is really important. Some people don't see results on the lower doses, so that's something to stay in touch with your derm about. And then I have clients who literally didn't see any benefit from taking spironolactone. I'm using the Colorescience Lip SPF in Champagne. Don't forget to wear SPF on your lips, guys. So important, especially with the summer months coming up. And funny enough, a lot of the clients I hear from who spironolactone did not work for, they tend to have some of the worst side effects. So I'm not totally sure how that works, but it's interesting. It seems to be like a slam dunk or does not help somebody at all. My theory is that might be a heavier bacterial component, oil component, or lifestyle changes that need to be made. And maybe the hormonal fluctuations are not the main component. It is a component with every breakout. There is some level of androgen activity at play, but maybe it's not the main component, is my theory. As for supplements, there are some that can help. I do work with the Clear Stem supplement, which contains DIM. DIM can help to balance hormones and also to reduce oil production, which is a big factor. It's a root factor when it comes to acne. So I find that is very helpful. The supplement also has 5-HTP, which can have a calming effect on our mind, which actually influences serotonin. So that's the happy chemical and hormone. So in a sense, when you are supporting the hormones with certain supplements, that can be beneficial as well. One supplement I do not recommend taking a lot of if you are struggling with hormonal acne is vitamin D. Vitamin D is known to affect testosterone in men. Oftentimes it's used as testosterone therapy to boost that hormone. For women who can be more sensitive to testosterone, this is not ideal. So I've seen acne sufferers who struggle with hormonal acne who are taking excess vitamin D. I've seen them benefit from weaning off of it. And in that case, I'd say if you need to be on it for any reason, have a conversation with your doctor about reducing the dosage and really just taking it as needed. I've also seen instances where clients are taking a multivitamin with vitamin D and then an added vitamin D supplement, which could just be, you know, producing too much testosterone, and again, we can be sensitive to it as women. So that is one supplement you don't want to overdo when it comes to hormonal acne. And I would say in general, people aren't always aware that supplements can impact our hormones. So I say you don't need to take them in excess. Make sure you know what you're taking, and there's really a rhyme and a reason and a place or a prescription from a doctor to be taking what you're taking. I think nowadays we can tend to think like more is more, just the more vitamins the better, but vitamins can impact different systems in our body. So that's something to be aware of as well. I do see a lot of clients who are taking excess powders, supplements, those kind of things, and it can be kind of overburdening the body as well. That is it for today's video. I really like this style of getting ready and answering your questions. It's fun to know what's on your mind and to be able to answer you directly in a video. So let me know if you guys liked this, and as always, feel free to leave me a comment with any suggestions for future videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. I will be posting more question boxes on my Instagram, so don't forget to give me a follow over there. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.